Hey y'all, Alistair Miller here. It's not really important who I am, but I'm going to throw some stats at you right here. We're going to look at recommended junior tennis training hours in Canada. I had a chance to hang out with a lot of tennis leaders from across the country at the National Bank Open. It was awesome, but the same stuff kept coming up. Why aren't more of our junior tennis players in Canada meeting the recommended hours by Tennis Canada each week and each year? And so this led me to believe that maybe parents and players are unaware. Some of this information you might have already received from your academy directly, but hey, let's fire through it real quick. To tell you a little about me, I am a high-performance coaching development consultant with Tennis Canada, but for the purpose of this video, this has nothing to do with Tennis Canada. I'm doing this all on my own, so do not sue Tennis Canada because of this video. However, all the information is ripped straight from their website, and a little bit of information from Larry Jurevich out in BC as well. So thank you for the info. Let's get into it. Let's tell you how many hours a week your player needs to be playing to be a pro. Let's go. All right, all this stuff is based on a couple things here, mainly Tennis Canada's whole player development pathway. This used to be called the long-term athletic development document. You don't need to know all these things, but we're going to look at a few of the stages in here that are the most prevalent to most people listening to this. Okay, let's move on slightly. We believe in Canada right now there are 4 ways that people can become pros. Pathway A, B, C, and D. There are a couple different options. Check this stuff out online if you'd like. All this information is available on Tennis Canada's website or the Tennis Professionals Association website for free. Check it out, and this stuff will impact the stuff that's coming up below here. Let's right into it right now. Career pathway information. Okay. So internationally, only 1 in the 300,000 people become a top 150 world-ranked tennis players. That is a 0.00003% chance of being a professional tennis player ranked in the top 150. Compared to hockey, 1 out of 70,000. This means that your player has a way better chance of being a pro hockey player than they do a pro tennis player. However, if your player is always meeting the hours that I'm going to outline below, your percentage chance to be a pro go way up. So that's the purpose of doing this. Meet these hours and your player is going to be very successful. Let's look at Canadian International Superstar Player Performance Indicators. It's a fancy way of saying this. Boys who are successfully competing semifinals or better in national championships, 1 age group above, have a chance of being very successful. What does that mean? If a U16 athlete is winning U18 nationals, they're going to be awesome. Girls, double that up. So successfully competing in semifinals or better in national championships, 2 age groups above their own. This means if a U14 girl is winning under 18 nationals, wow, they're going to be sick. They're going to be so good. Primary pathway right now for top Canadian players is NCAA Division I scholarships. To break this down real quick, based on this thing called NIL, there is so much money to be made from playing college tennis right now. Yes, you heard that right. College tennis players now, the top college tennis players, are making money to represent schools. They're getting free education and they're making money. There's rumors of players making over $100,000 American per year for playing NCAA tennis. And this segues perfectly to professional tennis afterwards. So we should be considering this for sure because the goal is to be a great NCAA Division I tennis player or better. All right, let's move along. We're going to look at a couple different stages here. The developing stage, the consolidating stage, and the learning to perform stage. Maybe I should have done developing as well, but my feeling is most players on a real ball that are training at an academy across Canada will fall into one of these categories. What is a developing stage? I would outline developing like this. Your player is somewhere within the ages of 11 to 12, although they could be younger, they could be older. Developing is a lot of things, and they're sort of competing at around like a 2-star level. That's sort of what developing is. They're like that. Maybe they're making provincials, maybe they're not, but they're competing around a 2-star level. All right, at this age group, the training to competition ratio looks like this. We need them to train 60% of the time and compete 40% of the time. Tournament matches per year. At this stage, they've got to be doing 24 to 45 singles matches per year and 18 to 20 doubles matches per year. Let's talk about their win-to-loss ratio in tournament matches. This is the most overlooked thing in tennis in Canada, in my opinion. Players at this stage need to win 2 matches for every 1 loss or win 3 matches for every 1 loss. This means that coaches, players, and parents have to be awesome about picking the right tournaments for your players to compete in. To be a pro, you got to learn to win. So play events that you can win in more than you lose in. This is like the biggest indicator for being successful as a pro. Recommended on-court training hours per week. At this stage, and again, we're talking about players that are sort of playing transition tournaments. Maybe they're making up provincials. Maybe they're playing some 3-star events. you got to be playing between 8 to 10 hours of between private, semi, and group training per week. Just that. It doesn't include your tournaments, just your training on court per week. Recommended off-court training hours each week. We're talking about fitness here. This is around 5 to 7 hours of fitness per week, and 3 of these hours can be other sports. Be multi-sport. Totally fine at this stage. That's great. But these are the numbers. This is what you got to do if you're at a developing stage. Moving on to consolidating. What do we mean by consolidating? I would say this is players around, the age doesn't really matter, but around 11, 12, 13. These players are making provincials. They're maybe doing pretty well at provincials. Maybe they're making nationals. They're sort of around at that age right now. So when we get to this stage, they need to be doing 50% training to 50% competing. Tournament matches per year at this stage, you got to play a lot. You got to compete a lot. 45 singles matches to 60 singles matches per year, and 20 to 30 doubles matches per year. You got to compete. You got to compete. You got to compete. We don't compete enough. Appropriate win-to-loss ratio. We're still at 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. Again, going back to the other one, your players have to learn to win. We need to win. We need to learn to win. Pick the right tournaments. Recommended on-court training hours per week. Right now, you need to be at around 12 to 14 hours per week for a consolidating stage. That includes your privates, your semis, your groups. Recommended off-court training hours per week. We're now at 5 to 8 hours of specialized fitness per week. What does specialized mean? It means tennis specific. It means all the fitness you're doing is to help you perform better as a tennis player. And again, when we talk about 12 to 14 hours on court and 5 to 8 hours off court, that is just the training part. That's only 50% of it. The competing needs to be 50% as well. Let's move on to the last stage here, and now we're at learning to perform, and this is generally for players who are probably winning a provincials. They're doing good there, or they're going really deep into nationals, maybe winning a nationals. And again, the age is pretty fluid, but maybe they're around 14 years old at this point right here. Training competition ratio, it stays 50-50, 50% training to 50% competing. Tournament matches per year, holy crap, you got to compete a lot. 72 to 90 singles matches per year and 54 to 60 doubles matches per year. Tough to get this in Canada, so learning to perform players are usually playing internationally as well. Go wherever you can go to get the matches in. Again, the win-loss ratio, this is so important. So for all the matches you play, you got to win 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. You got to win more than you lose. Pick the right tournaments. I can't stress that enough. Recommended on-court training hours per week now. Man, at Learning to Perform, you're living on a tennis court. It's 80 to 20 hours a week of private, semi, and group, somewhere in that range. Recommended off-court training, again, this is fitness and it's specialized. We need about 6 to 10 hours per week of this stuff. So when we look at really all 3 of these stages, they feel like a full-time commitment, but certainly consolidating and Learning to Perform are full-time commitments for tennis players. So overall, Tennis Canada has spent a lot of time and resources figuring out these stats and these numbers. If your player would like to be a professional or an excellent Division I tennis player, there is almost no way of you doing that unless your player is meeting these standards. So hope this helps. Feel free to share this, like this, whatever. I will make sure that all of these excuse me. I will make sure that all of the links to all this information are available below, and let's get out there. Let's produce the best players in Canada.